movies tier list. Now, this isn't just like horror movies. Like, this isn't me tier listing horror movies. That list would look a little bit different. This is specifically me ranking movies, watching them on Halloween. Whether it's with a group of friends, while drinking, by yourself, whatever, but explicitly for the purpose of watching these movies on Halloween night. So it's a little bit different than just a horror movie tier list. Anyways, let's get started. I have not seen all of these movies, and there's a lot of movies on here, so I'm only going to rate the ones that I've personally seen. The Addams Family. So I've not seen the remake of the Addams Family, but the Addams Family Values. I preferred the original of Addams Family Values. I think as far as a Halloween movie goes, I would put both of them in A tier, because in my mind, a Halloween Day movie, it can just be a horror movie, but it has to also have a little extra something, whether that's humor, whether that's whatever, needs a little je ne sais quoi. And I think Addams Family brings that. The Amityville horror. I don't know if there's been so many Amityville horror movies. I don't know. I'm gonna go and just put in C tier. I don't think they make a great Halloween movie overall. Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness is an S tier Halloween movie. You have the horror elements, you have the humor, you have the action, excitement. It's gonna be keeping people's attention. I think this is a great Halloween night movie. Okay. Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is a fantastic Halloween movie. This is a movie I have watched on Halloween Day many times in my life. This is really good if you have a group of friends you've been drinking, because you have, the humor. It's very fast-paced. It's Beetlejuice. If you've seen Beetlejuice, you know what Beetlejuice is like. I think Beetlejuice is actually like a perfect Halloween Day film in pretty much every way. To me, it's like one of the perfect movies to watch actually on Halloween. The Creature from the Black Lagoon. This is the original. Now, I do like this movie. It's a good movie. It's obviously, in the grand scheme of things, a very important film for horror and film in general. But sitting down and watching it on Halloween night, I don't know how many people are going to be game for that. So, I think D tier. The Blair Witch Project. Now, I've made this mistake many times. You think that The Blair Witch Project is what you want to watch on Halloween. You sit down with some friends, you sit down on the couch, you put on The Blair Witch Project. For the first 20 minutes to half an hour, you're into it. But then people are quickly ready to change it to something else. Don't make that same mistake. It's a classic mistake. I've made it myself multiple times during Halloween parties. In my opinion, actually, I think Creature from Black Lagoon also has to go F tier, unfortunately. The Blair Witch Project is an F tier Halloween movie. Now, it's a good horror movie. I like The Blair Witch Project, but on Halloween, no. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. go D tier. I think it's too slow. It's too tension focused, psychological. I don't think it works as a Halloween movie. I love the movie, obviously Donald Sutherland, but I think it's one of those movies that you have to like pay too much attention to. You have to notice little things a little bit too much. I don't think it's a good Halloween movie. Cabin in the Woods is a very good Halloween movie. Because you have that, it's very fast-paced. It's not satirical, but it sort of is in a sense. Like it plays into the stereotypes and the tropes of horror films. It has those extra added elements. I think Cabin in the Woods is an A-tier Halloween movie. Carrie, I might go B tier. It depends on the vibe. It depends on what mood you're in, what the vibe of the group you're with is. If you're with a group, I think Carrie can be very hit or miss. But I think if you're with the right crowd on Halloween, I think Carrie would play quite well. But the A tier, the S tier, I feel like anybody can sit down and enjoy those. But with Carrie, you need special group, a certain group. Casper. I'll put Casper in B tier as well. Maybe for a younger group, older audiences might struggle. Now, I really enjoy Casper, or at least from what I remember, I do. I haven't seen it in years and years and years. But Casper, obviously a classic horror film, and I think it deserves to be here in B tier. Okay. Coraline. I've only seen Coraline one time. Same with The Corpse Bride. I've seen both these movies, but I've only seen them one time. Coraline, I think I remember well enough to feel like I can put it here. I'm gonna put it in C tier. Not good, not bad. Certain groups, or if you're by yourself, I think this could be a good Halloween movie. Corpse Bride, I've only seen it one time. It was a very long time ago, so I don't feel comfortable rating it. Donnie Darko, I love Donnie Darko. I don't think Donnie Darko is a good Halloween movie. Again, too cerebral, too much psychological, like sort of abstract weirdness going on in Donnie Darko. I don't think it's good for Halloween. Dracula, this is the Gary Oldman, Keanu Reeves Dracula. I love this movie. I think with certain groups it could work well, depending on the mood. Again, I'm gonna put it in C tier, but I don't think it would go over as easily as even like a Carrie or a Casper. Something I think it would be a bit of a hard sell as a Halloween movie, I think. Evil Dead 2, The Evil Dead. So, The Evil Dead is the original. I don't remember. I've only seen one of these two. I don't know if it's Evil Dead 2 that I have seen, or if it's The Evil Dead that I've seen. Because I've seen Army of Darkness, and I've seen one of the two of these two here. And off the top of my head, I can't remember which it was, so I'm not gonna. Final Destination. Final Destination is a fantastic Halloween movie. You have exciting, thrilling kills. You have tension, but it's not slow burn tension. The original Final Destination is not my favorite, My favorite is Final Destination 3. That's probably just because that's the one I grew up with. We had that, I grew up with watching that DVD. If you've seen Final Destination 3 as a young man, around 12, 13 years old, when I first watched that movie, there was a certain scene that I watched a handful of times on repeat, around that age. So Final Destination 3 is the one I personally like, but I think any of these movies, the premise is simple enough. It's not a movie to pay too much attention to. I think it's a perfect crowd pleaser for a Halloween watch party. Okay, Friday the 13th. Now, I really like Friday the 13th, but I think B tier. Now, obviously, this is the original, like, drive-in movie theater Halloween horror movie, and I personally love slashers. But if we're purely talking about the original Friday the 13th, where it's Pamela Voorhees as the killer, not Jason, I don't think it's as easy of a watch, as good of a crowd pleaser as some of the later films where it's Jason doing the killing, especially as you get a bit later and the movies take themselves less seriously. It gets a bit more ridiculous and over the top. Those movies, I think, like Friday the 13th Part 3, Part 4, those you could play on Halloween very easily. Crowd pleaser. Part 1, it would maybe not go over the best with everybody. Ghostbusters is an S tier. It's a horror comedy, not too scary. The funny moments, obviously, the comedy of Ghostbusters, especially if you have a big group of people, it's gonna be a crowd-pleasing film. I think Ghostbusters is an easy S tier. Ghostbusters 2, Confession Time. I've only ever seen the first Ghostbusters. I haven't seen Ghostbusters 2. I haven't seen the remake of Ghostbusters. I haven't seen the all-female version of Ghostbusters. I've only ever seen the first Ghostbusters. Okay. The original Halloween. This is my personal go-to Halloween movie. Not every year at this point, that's no longer true, but there was a period of my life where I was watching this movie every single year on Halloween. The original Halloween film is my favorite horror movie of all time. It created the slasher genre, which is my favorite genre of horror movies. And it created Michael Myers, one of my favorite film characters in general. The original Halloween I love it. I think it's nearly a perfect movie. So, not any longer. I've missed some years, but there was a period of my life where I watched this movie every year on Halloween. And, it's my go-to Halloween film. The remake now, I think this is the newer one, not the Rob Zombie remake. I'm okay with it. I think it's a B tier. It's not my favorite. Now, because there's been like 3 new Halloween movies, I only liked the first of the 3 new ones. I think it's Halloween Returns, and then there's like Kills and Dies, I think, with the other one. I liked that well enough. But if I'm gonna watch a Halloween movie, I don't know if that's one that I'm gonna immediately reach for. Halloween Down. I like me some Halloween Down. I think with certain crowds it would be tough if you're like me. You're in my age bracket and you grew up watching this on the Disney Channel as a kid. This is like an easy nostalgia bait. Sit down, watch it. I'll also it's like a little bit of an extra thing for me because they filmed this movie kind of somewhere close to where I grew up, and like people would go out there on Halloween and they would do the down up, whatever. But I think like, younger people, Zoomers, Gen Alpha, who did not grow up watching Disney Channel original movies, they didn't see this movie when it aired originally. They might not connect to it in the same way. So I'm gonna put in D tier. Hereditary. I really love Hereditary. I don't think it makes a great horror movie. I think probably D tier. Maybe it's a little bit better of a horror movie than some of those F tier selections, or excuse me, Halloween movie. It's a very good horror movie. I just don't know if it's a great Halloween movie. I think as far as like a mass crowd pleaser, easy watch, I don't know if I would say Hereditary fits that bill. But I think Hocus Pocus sure does. Hocus Pocus still holds up. I actually watched Hocus Pocus 2 nights ago, maybe 3 nights ago, but earlier this week at the very least. The original Hocus Pocus, not Hocus Pocus 2. I've seen Hocus Pocus 2, it's okay, but the original's much better. You have an amazing cast. The 3 Sanderson sisters are perfectly cast. Their interactions with the modern world and everything, it's just a very fun movie. There are, especially maybe if you have younger kids, there are some moments that might actually scare them, but mixed in with fun and laughs and all that other stuff, because of course it is a Disney film. But I think Hocus Pocus is a fantastic Halloween film. It Follows. It Follows is a very, very good Halloween movie. I've watched this movie around Halloween time a few times now. It Follows is one of my favorite horror movies of the last 10 years. I think in 2015, 2016, I think it came out, maybe a little bit before that, I don't know. But one of my favorite horror movies of the last decade. It's a movie that, even though there is a little bit of like, you have to pay attention to like catch certain things, it's one of those movies you can still kind of like half pay attention to it if you're at a Halloween party, drinking, hanging out, talking to friends, and you'll still enjoy it and get stuff out of the film. Okay, the original. Now, I personally like the original TV movie, but I think that it's gonna be a hard sell nowadays. So I'm gonna put it in D tier. The new It Part 1, not Part 2. I think that is an A tier Halloween movie. It has really scary moments. There's some funny moments, especially with the kids, with Richie. And it's a movie you don't have to pay a lot of attention to. It's a good party movie for a horror movie. Actually, I'd even put it in S tier, I reckon. I'll put it up there. Okay. Jeepers Creepers, I've not seen in very, very long. So I don't feel comfortable rating it. I don't know where I'd put it. Midsummer. I might put Midsummer in D. I think of it similarly to how I think of Hereditary. Obviously both A24 films, but as much as we all love A24 films, I don't know if they're good Halloween movies. I'll tell you what is a good Halloween movie though, Paranormal Activity. People sleep on these movies because they overstayed their welcome. But if you were, I was cognizant when these movies were hitting theaters, and I was old enough to be able to see these in theaters. I don't think the first one, but Paranormal Activity 2 I saw in theaters. It's one of those movies you're sitting in your seat, watching the movie through your fingers like this. Like, first two Paranormal Activity movies are genuinely very scary, jump scary. And now, we kind of hate jump scares, and it's a trend that everyone's very tired of. But it wasn't as worn out. It wasn't as played out when Paranormal Activity came out. You have to remember, like, these movies are why people dislike jump scares, because they created this trend. But the Paranormal Activity 1 or 2 Halloween party, boom, you're gonna be having a good time. The Poltergeist. Oh, excuse me, just Poltergeist. I've only seen it once, and it's been a long time. Psycho. Now, I quite like Psycho, quite a bit, but I might put it in F. Me personally, I would watch it on Halloween and enjoy it, but I think, especially if we're talking the original Psycho, I don't know how well that would go over with a crowd. Ringu, I'll put it in A tier. I might even put it in C tier, actually, because if we're talking Ringu, not everybody, especially in a party environment, is gonna be down for reading subtitles. Now, if you're in a group full of weebs or people who don't mind subtitles and movies in other languages, then this is an A tier, maybe even an S tier Halloween movie. But if we're talking Ringu, not the Ring, it's the subtitles make it hard, so I'll put it in C. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, this is an easy S tier. Like, this is one of the quintessential Halloween movies. And as somebody who's been to many midnight screenings of Rocky Horror Picture Show, I've done the Time Warp, I've done all that stuff. Rocky Horror Picture Show is a quintessential Halloween movie, and if you've never seen it before, well, this is your sign to give it a watch. I would never recommend. Now, I love the midnight screenings of Rocky Horror. You have the performers on stage, the interactivity of it all. I love that. I've been to it many times in my life. Don't go and watch the movie for the first time in that environment. You're gonna have no idea what the hell's going on. The very first time I ever saw Rocky Horror Picture Show, it was an ex-girlfriend of mine who took me to a midnight screening of it. The performance and all that. I'd never been before, I'd never seen the movie before. That was my introduction. I was completely lost. The next night I watched the movie just in my own time, and then I started going and seeing it again, but don't do that for your first time. Scary movie. Oh, Rosemary's Baby. I really, really like Rosemary's Baby, but as a Halloween movie, maybe B tier. Similar to Carrie, I think. It depends on the person, it depends on the group. I haven't seen a Scary Movie in like 20 years, so I'm not gonna. Now, the live action Scooby-Doo, I'm actually, next year, going to the island they filmed this movie. I didn't realize it was filmed on Moreton Island, just off the coast, up past Queensland. And I'm going there next year, so that's kind of exciting. I really like the live action Scooby-Doo movie. I might even put it in A tier, actually. It is an underrated movie. For Halloween film, very good. Scream. Scream is an A tier Halloween movie. It's a slasher. slasher, that I think, even for people who aren't fans of the genre, is a very good slasher. It's a 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 slasher. they can enjoy it. Obviously, Ghostface is iconic at this point. You have Matthew Lillard giving a great performance. It has some humor, violence, terror, all that stuff. So, Scream, I think, is an easy crowd pleaser. Shaun of the Dead. I really, really like Shaun of the Dead. But I almost wonder if it's like too fast and too quippy, really. I might have to put it in B tier. I don't know if that's right. Part of me thinks it should be an A or S. But I think like for a Halloween movie it might be too quippy, too... I don't know. Just part of me feels like it needs to be in B tier for the purpose of a Halloween film. There's a lot of these I've not seen. Signs. I really like Signs. But I don't think it's a good Halloween movie. I might put it in C tier. If you have a group that's really into aliens, because for me, I don't really find sci-fi horror films that scary, because I don't associate aliens with horror. And I know some people do, but personally I don't understand that. So for me, Signs is less of a scary movie and more of like a science fiction film, I suppose. So yeah, I see. I think it depends on the person. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one, of the major slasher franchises, not my favorite. Halloween's at the top. Then I'd go Friday the 13th. Then Nightmare on Elm Street, and for me, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is fourth. It's just not as compelling of a film to me, or as compelling of a villain. Depending on the crowd you're with, some people might prefer it to Halloween. It's a little bit more brutal than Halloween or Friday the 13th in some regards. But for me, my list here, I'm putting it at B. The Conjuring, The Craft, The Exorcist, The Craft. Maybe D tier. I recently rewatched The Craft, and there is one of the most racist things I've ever heard in a movie that's like not about racism or the evils of racism. Like in the first 10 minutes of The Craft, if you've seen The Craft and you're like, what are you talking about? I don't remember that. Go back and watch The Craft. It happens like in the first, might even be the first 5 minutes of the movie. Like it's one of the first lines in the movie. I actually, like, it was so shocking to me, I started laughing. The Exorcist. Exorcist, one of the best horror movies ever made. For a Halloween movie, though, I think it might be an F. Like, The Exorcist is not only one of the best horror films, one of the best films ever made, period, but so many people focus on, like, the intensity and excitement in the final third of the film, and so many people do not remember how much of a slow burn the majority of the film is during the opening periods, where they're taking Reagan to the doctor, the psychiatrist, Like, it's so much interpersonal drama. Like, the quote-unquote good stuff doesn't happen till later. And if you're just sitting down to watch a good movie, then yeah, The Exorcist will scratch that itch. But if it's specifically for the purpose of Halloween, I don't know if it's the right... In my opinion, it's a bad choice. The Fourth Kind. again, I just don't find Aliens scary. So for me, it's an F tier. It might be different on your list. I remember so many people I knew got freaked out by this movie, and it just didn't scare me at all. The Host. I love The Host, but maybe a C tier. If you're into monster horror, I kind of am a little bit. Depends. It's very hit or miss for me. So I'll put it in C tier. The Lighthouse is one of my favorite films of all time. It's in my top 10 all-time films. But I can't imagine a worse movie to sit down and watch on Halloween. Like, imagine like you and 10 friends with pizza, wings, beer, and you're like, alright boys, we're gonna sit down and watch a period psychological drama thriller. I can't imagine that going over well with a crowd. In my opinion, one of the best movies ever made. Two of my favorite actors of all time, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, both in my top 10 all-time actors. But yeah, not on Halloween, buddy. The Mummy and the Mummy Returns. So I'll do the original Mummy. I think that actually could be. Let me put them both in A tier. Actually, they're very exciting films. They're not super scary, really. Actually, I'm gonna move them to B because you don't really have that horror element. In my mind, The Mummy is more akin to like an Indiana Jones type movie. I don't really get the horror element to these films. Maybe it's meant to be, but I'm actually gonna move them to C. Now, I mean, they're fun, they're exciting movies, because obviously, like, they're action-adventure films. But I just don't know, for the purpose of Halloween, if they scratched the right itch. The Omen. I feel similarly about The Omen as I do about The Exorcist. Yes, it's a very good horror film, it's a very good film, but for Halloween, I don't know. I don't think so. The Purge is an A tier Halloween film. I don't think it's on the same tier as these, but The Purge is definitely a Halloween style film. The Witch. It's the same way I feel at The Lighthouse. Hey boys, you want to watch a movie where they speak a type of English that you won't understand even when they have the subtitles on? I love The Witch, but no, not for Halloween. In The Town That Dreaded Sundown, I still need to watch those movies. Twilight I could see is like, if you're doing it as a bit, like we're gonna do a Twilight Halloween and everyone dresses up like as vampires, or like it's a Twilight themed Halloween party, but no, it's not a Halloween movie. I might even put it in F tier. It's not a Halloween movie. Van Helsing, although Van Helsing is very campy, it's not very good. It does still hold like a weird special place in my heart. The vampire woman on my forearm, which is a very awkward shot to try and get. But the vampire woman here is modeled off of the vampires in Van Helsing. So, the movies aren't great, but I thought the vampires looked cool. And I think it could be a fun movie depending on the crowd. It's not particularly scary. I'll put it in D. What we doing in the Shadows, very funny Halloween movie. I think it could be a crowd pleaser depending on the crowd. The type of humor, the type of movie is not gonna hit with everybody. But I personally think it's a very funny movie, and I'd put it in B tier. Okay, now, is there anything here I missed? Like, there's some of these that I have seen, but I've only seen them once, so I don't feel comfortable, like, rating them on here. Like, yeah, just looking, I don't really see anything that Resident Evil I haven't seen in forever. The Woman in Black, I saw it in theaters, I haven't seen it since. The Fog, I always get the Fog and the Mist confused. Like, I legitimately don't know how to tell those two movies apart. So I'm like, I don't know which one I'm... Yeah, so I think that's my list. We'll take one final look at it here. So for a Halloween party, a Halloween movie night, if you were gonna watch a movie based off of horror films that I have seen, this is how I would rank your choices. And like I said, if it's this coming Halloween, if you've never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show, that would be my recommendation for you. But really, I think anything in S or A, if you've never seen it before, I feel safe recommending it for you this Halloween. B tier, C tier, it really depends on your personality or the group you'll be watching the film with. D and below, probably give it a miss. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fun Halloween, whatever it is you do, whether it's taking your kids trick-or-treating, going trick-or-treating yourself, hanging out with friends, partying, drinking, and eating food. Whatever you do, do it responsibly. Don't drink and drive. Don't do anything stupid to hurt yourself or others, but if you liked the video, leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this almost every single day. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.